Well, you need to
Bureau.
look, because it does.
Okay.
If you know, this isn't a quiz, if you know, what's the percentage of Americans who live at or below the poverty level?
I don't know the percentage.
Okay, it's around 11%. It's been constant. Now, when the Census Bureau defines poverty, they do it by income. You're aware of that. When the Census Bureau defines poverty using income, they only count income that the individual earns or cash income that the individual gets from the federal government. Is that correct?
Well, it includes all sources of their income. I mean, that is the purpose.
Yeah, their income and cash income from the federal government. Is that correct?
Oh, meaning does it include income that they receive from the federal government?
Yeah, cash.
I think so.
Yeah. So if a person makes $11,000 a year, that's considered toward poverty level. But if the person gets a cash payment, let's say in the form of SSI or TANF, that counts too. Is that right?
I'm not certain.
Yeah, it does. Okay. Are you aware that your agency doesn't count non-cash payments from the federal government defining poverty?
I am not.
Are you aware that your agency doesn't count refundable earned income tax credits, or food stamps, or housing subsidies, or utility bill subsidies, or Medicaid, or free school meals? They don't count that. They call it a non-cash payment, and it doesn't count. You aware of that?
It sounds to me that you and I are going to spend some time together and we're going to change it, but I did not know that, and it sounds like something that we should add.
And the purpose of my questioning is not to punish people who need help. The American people are the most generous people in the world. That's why we spend $1.4 trillion a year helping people that other countries would allow to die in a ditch. But your Census Bureau says it's 11% who live at or below the poverty level. That's a lie. It's 1%. If you count as any person with a brain above a single-cell organism would, cash and non-cash payments, they're above the poverty level. And we ought to be honest with the American people and thank them for getting the poverty level down to 1% instead of giving them a curb stomping and calling them selfish. Let me give you a real life example here. Let's suppose you've got a mom and two kids. According to your Census Bureau, the poverty level for her is $27,000. She makes $11,000 a year, let's say. So she's below the poverty level. But she also qualifies for $3,400 in refundable tax credits based on her $11,000 salary, $9,200 in food stamps, that's for her and her two children, $9,500 in housing subsidies, $900 in utility bill subsidies, $16,000 in Medicaid, $3,100 a year in free school lunches, and $6,600 a year in TANF. That's $64,100 a year, tax-free. Is she living in poverty?
Doesn't sound like it.
No, but your Census Bureau counts her as being poor. I'm not saying take away her benefits. I'm saying give the American people a little credit. And I really think you need to change the definition to a definition that looks like somebody designed the damn thing on purpose. Final question, I'm going to hurry, Mr. Chairman. Why don't you just use...
What you just watched is rarer than it should be, a cabinet secretary getting handed a real family's actual finances, dollar by dollar, and having to admit on camera that he didn't know how his own agency defines poverty. Not a dodge. Not a talking point. I did not know that. That's the Secretary of Commerce, about the Census Bureau, which reports directly to him. That kind of moment doesn't happen because a senator got lucky. It happens because John Kennedy came in with the actual numbers: $11,000 in wages, $3,400 in tax credits, $9,200 in food stamps, $9,500 in housing aid, $16,000 in Medicaid, and built the case so precisely that there was nowhere for the answer to go except, "You're right, I didn't know." That's what real accountability looks like, not a gotcha soundbite, but a receipt. This is exactly the kind of hearing footage that gets buried under the news cycle within 24 hours unless people make sure it doesn't. Subscribe if you want more of these moments pulled out of 3-hour hearings and put in front of you instead of left to rot in a C-SPAN archive nobody watches. Like this video so the algorithm knows accountability content like this is worth pushing further. And share it with someone who still thinks Washington doesn't get asked hard, specific questions anymore, because this is what it looks like when it does. Stick around, because the same senator wasn't done. The next clip is Kennedy asking Lutnick a much simpler question about a $4,000 government bill versus a $600 receipt, and getting an answer that raises just as many questions.
Satellite internet service. Why don't you just use Global Star or Starlink? You said the cost is $4,000 per person in Louisiana. For $600, you can buy a Starlink terminal. Why don't you just do that? And do it across America and save a bunch of money.
The states were responsible for determining the best outcome, and sometimes fiber in a dense location can be economically better. Sometimes satellite does not work best on geography.
It can't be cheaper. That's impossible. It can be cheaper.
Math is, each of the states did their best. We worked it out with them, and we moved on.
I just don't understand. You can buy, I'm not saying do Musk. There are others that just throw it out for bid. But $600 for a terminal versus $4,000 for fiber optic? This is taxpayer money. I'm done. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. Madam Chairman. I should have known it's you, Shelley. You're much nicer than Jerry. He would have cut me off.
Yeah, Senator Shaheen.
Put these two moments next to each other and a pattern shows up that's bigger than either one alone. In the first clip, the Secretary of Commerce doesn't know that his own Census Bureau leaves tens of thousands of dollars in food stamps, Medicaid, and housing aid out of the number it hands Congress every year as the poverty rate. In the second, 4 minutes later, the same secretary can't give a straight answer for why a federal broadband program is spending $4,000 to connect a single household when a retail satellite terminal runs $600. Different agencies under the same roof. Same problem both times. Numbers get repeated up the chain for years, and nobody at the top stops to ask if they still make sense. This isn't a small technical dispute. The 11% figure Kennedy pushed back on gets cited in budget debates, welfare policy fights, and campaign arguments as evidence that federal assistance either is or isn't working. If a mother of two bringing in $64,100 a year in combined wages and benefits is still officially in poverty, that number is doing real damage to an honest debate about what these programs actually accomplish, in both directions. Kennedy's answer wasn't just to complain about it on camera. He went and filed the Poverty Statistics Enhancement Act, S. 3756, requiring the Bureau to publish a second number alongside the old one, using the same broader income methodology the Congressional Budget Office already relies on. That's the difference between a viral hearing clip and an actual fix, and it's why this one didn't end at the hearing room door. Since this exchange, Kennedy has kept the pressure on publicly, including telling Lutnick from the Senate floor he intends to chase him like he stole Christmas until the number gets corrected. The broadband example matters for the same reason. When a federal program spends 6 to 7 times more than the retail alternative to accomplish the same basic outcome, get one household online, and the person in charge of that program can't explain the gap beyond the states decided, that's not proof of fraud. It's proof that oversight questions this specific don't get asked nearly often enough. Both moments in this hearing rest on the same principle: numbers that go unquestioned for years don't stay honest on their own. They stay honest because someone with subpoena power and a spreadsheet decides to ask you aware of that. And doesn't move on until they get a real answer.